Hey y'all, this is Moni.
And this is Kat.
Hey Kat. And this is the Fake Ass Book Club. Wait, can we both say it or no?
Welcome back, you guys. This is your girl, Moni.
And this is Kat.
Hey, Kat.
Hey, Moni.
We made it back.
We did. It wasn't difficult at all.
Not at all. It's my pleasure, too, to be here. I always look forward to this, even though sometimes I am tired when it's happening. I do look forward to our, our little weekly space that we've created for ourselves. So, it feels good to be back, and we have a really cool episode today, friend. I'm really excited about this.
Yes, I'm ready to dig into this.
All right, guys. So if you're wondering, today's episode is about the book Rest is Resistance by the author Tricia Hersey. And I want to give you guys just a little bit about the book before we jump into things. From the founder and creator of the Nat Ministry, Rest is Resistance is a battle cry, a guidebook, a map for a movement, and a field guide for the weary and hopeful. This book is rooted in spiritual energy and centered in Black liberation, womanism, somatics, and Afrofuturism, with captivating storytelling and practical advice, all delivered in Hersey's lyrical voice and informed by her deep experience in theology, activism, and performance art. Rest is Resistance is a call to action and a manifesto for those who are sleep-deprived, searching for justice, and longing to be liberated from the oppressive grip of grind culture. Wow.
Dun, dun, dun. Wow.
I mean, I'm almost speechless because I feel like she's strumming my pain with her fingers.
It was and thanks to Tasha Mac for putting this on our radar. It was, and this being a part of like a lot of her work, which is getting people to lay your ass down.
Yeah, man. It's a compelling message, and I'm really looking forward to kind of deep diving into the subject today. So I guess before we do, though, friend, we should throw our hands over our hearts and dedicate this episode.
Strong agree.
So you guys, I want to dedicate this episode as always to our wonderful and lovely and beautiful patrons. You guys are the best. Thank you so much for your continued support. I also want to dedicate this to, I'm going to say, my ancestors, because this book really put me in a space where, you couldn't ignore the shared history of, I don't know, just all of the hard work and abuse and, that slavery sort of embodies in this, and the message of rest being resistance and all of that. I don't know, it just made me think about everybody who sacrificed their bodies and basically their lives to build this country and stuff like that. So that's meaningful to me. So a dedication straight to the ancestors, this episode. And I think that's it for me. What about you, friend?
Yes, I am going to yes and that. I'm all for the ancestors. Wow. Hope I'm making them proud. I sometimes envision conversations I would have, if I could go back and talk to my ancestors and be like, so what are you doing with all those voting rights? It's like, oh, funny you ask. But my dedication is going out to Mrs. Beyonce Knowles Carter. Went out to see Renaissance, a film by Beyonce, with my lovely daughter this weekend, and it was very inspirational. One of my favorite quotes from the movie was, "This bitch will not stop." And I was like,
wow.
And I just took a lot of inspiration and strength from that. So dedication over.
Okay.
But I want to use that as a springboard to a funny story I've been wanting to tell you on tape.
Do it.
Or while we're being filmed. So when we pulled up to the movies, I stopped at a fast food chain first.
Okay.
And in the process of, putting the food into my purse so I could sneak it into the venue, all of a sudden my daughter taps me on the shoulder and points to my car window. So I look, and I see a face and I don't register who it is at first. So I just start screaming because I wasn't expecting to see a face there. And then I realized it was our beautiful friend, Kay Barnes.
Let's go.
And then I got excited and started screaming more. And then because my sympathetic system kicked in, I couldn't stop screaming.
Wow.
And so her mom, sister, and her 2 daughters were in the car. They couldn't stop laughing because it was just such an hilarious turn of events, and no one could really understand what was happening or how to deal with it.
I love that.
So that feeling basically went on for the rest of the evening, and then I sent you the picture of us all there at the end of it and stuff like that. But I remember immediately thinking of you, because I was like, Moni would have loved this so much.
So much. Yeah, man, I do. I regret missing that, actually. I was not on the... So, I mean, like I told you, too, I'm waiting for Beyonce to come to my house. Like, I already spent enough money with her. I was like, I will holler at you when this is streaming from the comfort of my couch. So I can't wait to see it. I'm sure it's beautiful and inspirational, though.
Understandable. It's lovely. Did you know she had to have like a knee? Like her knee went out. Like that was the thing. Like people don't understand what this chick goes through. That's why she was standing still so much. She had to get a new knee.
And she was still twerking, though.
Yeah. And
damn.
She was still getting it. And also shout out, I mean, I love that she credits everyone. Like it was just really, it was very beautiful, very uplifting. I'm probably gonna go see it again. It was just, it was spectacular. So she doesn't even have to do this. Like she's quite comfortable. The fact that she still loves to do this is just so inspiring. So
she's classy.
Yeah.
She's a classy lady.
But I hope she does get some rest soon, because mama, that's like,
she's still going.
Whoa.
I mean, and that maybe like that's a really good segue into all of this, man, because
but she did actually show some footage of her making sure like her and the kids were getting some rest in between this. But of course for them it's like in cans or whatever.
Right, which I mean at that point that's where it needs to be, I think. You know what I'm saying?
Like, it has to be. Yeah. Like, I can't exactly go to Orlando.
Yeah, exactly. So you got to be somewhere tucked away, you know. So good for her, man. That's what's up. I mean, I love that she continues to share her art and stuff like that. And even if you don't love it, again, nobody can, you know, say she doesn't.
Knock the hustle.
Yeah, I mean, she goes pretty hard. So, so remind me to get back to that point, though. You know, you say can't knock the hustle. That is kind of like something that comes up, like that mantra in the book and stuff like that. But I wanted to mention that this book was published in October of 22, and it's about 224 pages. So it's not a super long book. I listened to the book and it was a 5-hour audiobook. I know I did not listen on the regular speed, so it was probably less than that. So, but you mentioned you actually read it this time.
Yes, I read it. I couldn't get the audiobook. It was checked out.
Oh, I probably had it.
So I know, right? I was about to text you and be like, hey,
return it. Yeah.
No, but I was like, you know what? This will be fine because this will actually make me sit down and I'll have to rest to be able to read it and stuff like that. And then actually, I do love the first like part of it where it's like, I hope you're laying down while you're reading this.
Man.
And I was.
Oh my gosh. So when I first started listening to it, it was after our mutual friend was going to be here from out of town, and we had plans on meeting outside of my house at first, right? Because it was going to be like on a Sunday, and then it was just like, you know, she's trying to visit everybody, so there were a million people she was trying to see. And then I'm like, if it's simpler, I mean, I can move the date. I said I won't even shoot it out to the other ladies, because I'm thinking like it's just hard. Everybody's working. It's the holidays. Like it might not be super easy for everybody to meet up. So I'm like, you can just, because she was like, well, I can come to your house. And so the first thing I'm thinking is like, oh my God, that means I gotta like clean my house. Like, you know, and for the most part, no, I don't think anybody ever walks in my house and is like, oh my God, it's a hot fucking mess in here. I think
it's like, what happened?
Yeah, I think for the most part, if I'm complaining about stuff, I mean, you might be able to, there's usually clothes on my couch, if I'm full disclosure, that are being folded, or my ironing board, because I'm from the 1900s, is up because I'm ironing my kids' uniforms and stuff. But it wasn't bad, but it needed, like, I just needed to clean my house anyway. And I was like up till 1:45. I was so fucking tired, because it was the kind of cleaning where it was like, oh, now that I'm here, you know,
we're
what
doing
about
this.
and what about this? So I woke up that well, it was already the morning, but I woke up like 4 hours after initially laying down and then starting my day. And I was exhausted. So I turned this, like I was listening to this book. And when she was saying that, like I was instantly like teary-eyed listening to her tell me like it's okay to rest, because I was so fucking tired. I was like, oh my gosh.
You need to hear it.
Yeah, and it was crazy. Now, it's not like, I mean, that was self-induced, you know what I'm saying? Like that work, you know what I'm saying? But it's still just...
What? It's part of the programming. Like, that's the thing. Like, no one
programming.
has to even tell you.
Oh my
Like,
God.
you feel... I've talked to women about this all the time. Just the amount of guilt you feel when you do take breaks.
Oh my gosh, so bad.
And having to, get past that. But before we dig into it too
Yeah.
further, I'm going to go ahead and talk about our author real
Let's
quick.
do it.
Tricia Hersey is an artist, poet, theologian, and community organizer. She's the founder of the Nap Ministry, an organization that examines rest as a form of resistance by curating sacred spaces for the community to rest via collective napping experiences, immersive workshops, performance art installations, and social media. Tricia is a global pioneer and originator of the movement to understand the liberatory power of rest. She's the creator of Rest is Resistance and Rest as Reparation frameworks. Her research interests include Black liberation theology, womanism, somatics, cultural trauma, and cultural trauma. Tricia is a Chicago native and currently lives in southern Georgia.
What I noticed in her book a lot was her kind of like the intersection of our podcast, where she's saying that a lot of her work is rooted and inspired in art and stuff too, which I thought was interesting. So yeah, lots of different inspirations. So it was really interesting to get into it. So I don't know where you want to start with all of this though, but
I'm going to start with one of my favorite quotes. This was earlier on in the book. Yeah. Quote, "This book is a testimony and testament of my refusal to donate my body to a system that still owes a debt to my ancestors for the theft of their labor and dream space. I refuse to push my body to the brink of exhaustion and destruction. Let the chips fall where they may. I trust myself more than capitalism." End quote. That says it.
Like pretty much.
And it is, and I will say, like, seeing that she's a poet, this was very poetic, this work.
Yeah, it was.
Like, I didn't get to hear it, but I could imagine it sound, because there was a lot of repetition.
I was gonna say it, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because that was my thing. Like, listening to her, it felt like a mantra, like a lot of it, and it was repetitive. I think, like I was like every time she said capitalism and white supremacy and stuff, I was like, man, we are really, but like we're repeating this. And I think that, like, typically if you're reading a book and you feel like these like points keep being remade and remade and remade, but it was kind of like, even though it was redundant at times, it was like, well, it bears repeating because it's still relevant, because now we're talking about something else, but that's also the root of that something else. You know what I mean?
Right.
But yeah, it was very poetic. And her voice, I think you would have enjoyed it too, because she had kind of a southern draw. Like, and it was just, she sounded like she could be like one of your, cousins or something like that.
One of my cousins who called me, well, I won't say my real name on here, but the way they say my name is very distinctive.
Yes, very much so.
So, but what did you, because I will say this, because I think this is a very important message, but I think this is something that I internalized a long time ago.
Right. And I honestly, if there was a poster child for this, you would be like the perfect mascot, because I can't think of one person. I'm trying. Let me be
who's fallen asleep in more places than I have.
Now.
You don't know this
sleep places I sleep.
Them sleep places I slept. Man, I will go to sleep right now. You don't understand.
Yeah, I'm mad we both went straight to Trina though. That's
you don't know.
Okay,
no one does. Well, because she references Alice Walker, who coined the term womanist and womanism, and Audre Lorde. These are people I've read before, and I didn't read Lorde until I was older, but as Alice Walker, I read that when I was still, like, my brain was still mush.
Yeah.
So that really got in there early, and I did realize, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to put value into myself and not capitalism.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, that's dope. I honestly like was and am a late bloomer to that. And it's like, it's something that even though I've heard it, it's not like this is my first time hearing that, like, you need to sit the fuck down sometimes. Like, I know this, but then it's like, there's still a disconnect a lot of the time between what I know in my mind and what I decide to participate in. You know what I'm saying? So, and it's weird because I was asking myself, like, what's the, like, if you know that you need to sit the hell down, or I don't know, like, I think the message has been internalized so deeply that the unraveling of it is just something that I always am going to have to be aware of and intentional about, because it, like, I feel like I'm in this shit deep. Like, it's just, it's so deep that it's like, and because it happened after, you know what I'm saying? Like, I wasn't taking in those same messages at a young age, I don't feel like.
I think a big part of it is being patient with yourself.
For sure.
Like, that's part of the rest. It's like the fact that, yeah, this will probably be a lifelong process that you're not going to be great at all the time.
Yeah.
But to still, it doesn't mean that it's not worth the attempt.
Yeah.
And even that patience with yourself is why you need rest. Like, when you find yourself kind of spiraling out, like, these are these moments where, I mean, a lot of times I manage myself like I'm my parent, where I'll be like, you're acting up right now. Like, do you need a snack? Like, do you need a nap? Do you need to, you know, take a couple minutes and decompress? And then also just forgiving myself when I don't do it.
Yeah. And I do think that she was very clear about that. Like, this isn't a message that's, like, this isn't a tweet. This isn't a quick, you know, reel on Instagram or something like that, or a TikTok. Like, this is, you know, the message that she's trying to get across is that it's intentional work, and it's slow, and it's over time. And so, you know, she's like, if you're here for the quick fix, if you're here for, you know, like, oh, hey, let me, you know, like, what can I do now to figure out how to rest? You know, it's like, this is work you're going to have to do within yourself, because that's going to look different for everybody. But it
is resistance. It's going counter to the mainstream message. So that's always going to be harder.
Yeah.
Because the message we're mostly getting is like, why aren't you buying stuff? And it's like,
why are you going this slow?
But if you're,
and why aren't you?
Yeah. But if you're giving yourself the other message of like, no, if I had to choose right now, I'm going to choose taking care of myself.
Yeah.
Or things like that. It's not something that's going to come naturally, and it is going to be that, you know, resistance. You know what it made me think of when we read Possessing the Secret of Joy? And she named resistance as the secret of joy at the end of the book.
She sure did.
But resistance, just by definition, is hard.
Yeah, because I mean, if you think about the cultural significance of rest in American culture, I mean, there is none.
No, I remember when we went to Cancun one time, and it was an excursion. And I think I had a question for somebody on staff, and they were on siesta. They're like, yeah, I'm not talking right now.
Yeah.
And it was like, what? But like, just even like because even the concept of siesta, that's from Europe, you know, like, you know, Spain and stuff like that. But the idea that everybody just shuts down in the afternoon for a couple hours, you know, just to enjoy life and rest. Like, for Americans, it's like, time is money and you're wasting both.
Yeah. And I mean, when I say it's just so ingrained in how we are and how we move and how we think. Because I mean, like, how many times have you been on vacation or just like, I don't know, taking part in a different culture and things are moving slow? Like, I know when you're in the Caribbean, ain't nobody in a hurry to do shit. You be like, well, damn, we've been sitting here for
island time.
Yeah, we've been sitting here for a long time waiting for our food and stuff. And they just expect you to sit there and enjoy your life, enjoy the company that you're there with. Like, your food will be out here when they get out here. And it's like, oh, okay. Like, that's a different vibe than what we're used to. So yeah, it's yeah, it is a reprogramming of sorts. And I mean, when you look at other cultures that do sort of stop in the middle of the day and have a siesta. Or, you know, even when you think about some Asian cultures that really, they're like, yeah, you have to have that restful time. Like, you have to have that intentional restful time, because that's where creativity lives. And that's where, you know, some of the greatest,
that's the dream space.
Yeah, the dream space, which is interesting too. So like for you, is that something that resonates? Because I mean, like, I know, you know, like, you're huge about the rest thing. Like, I do know that, but like, I don't ever hear you talking about dream spaces or no shit like that. So what is that?
Oh, it's because I think the only people who should have to listen to your dreams are the people who are sleeping with you. And so I don't think, like, your dreams are so weird and like disjointed. Like, I'm talking about actual dreams when you're asleep, not about like your hopes and dreams or whatever. But like just actual dreams. I have insane dreams.
Do you?
But oh my God, yeah. I had
well, you're not
like,
sleeping with the audience. Are you gonna say it? Is it?
No, I'm not putting anybody through that.
Really?
No one has to listen. Yeah.
It's probably more entertaining than you think.
No, it's not. As soon as you start saying it, it becomes, but it is interesting because dreams are how you work out problems. That is your brain trying to just sort of deal with the information you've given it and come up with something. I also think a little bit that's when your microbiome tries to talk to you. Like, it can create neurons that go to your brain. So I think a lot of times that's usually when certain, like, your body sort of heals in your sleep, which is why I'm big on it too, and why I've always been really big on bedtime. Like, my kids have always had like really regular sleep schedules that are very rarely disrupted, because I think that is sort of the seat of health.
Yeah, I agree with that. Now I'm really good with the, you know, my same thing, very much you know, their bedtimes and stuff like that, to the point where like if they're up much past it, like unless they're really excited about like the next day or something, you know what I mean, they're pretty much in, you know, sleep and or ready to go. So and even though like I think I can definitely perpetuate that kind of grind culture or whatever that's being spoken about, it's funny because, you know, my husband and I are really different about how we feel about sleep. Like, it's not like I'm avoiding sleep or rest because I don't love it. It's like, oh, it's my favorite. Like, I love it so hard that like only visiting it for 20 minutes, like when I think about a 20-minute nap, it's like 20 minutes. Like, I'm going to wake up pissed. You know what I mean? And I feel like that's worse than being tired sometimes. You know, like I genuinely feel like that. Whereas my husband will take a power nap and be like rejuvenated. And I'm like, who the fuck is rejuvenated after 20 minutes? Like, am I doing this wrong? Like, because...
Well, I used to have an Asian coworker who said that was a big part of... She was from India. Where, like, you know, it was really normal just to take like 20... She would take like 20-minute naps at her desk. Because that was the thing too, because it'd be really weird because people are like, why are you asleep right now? But it's like, yeah, I'm just doing this. It's better for my memory.
Maybe that's my problem. I don't get enough sleep. Oh my God. But yeah, it's
but everybody has, okay. And of course this made me think of Star Trek.
Okay.
Because there was an episode, season 4, episode 17, Night Terrors. And as you mentioned before, Star Trek raised me.
Yeah.
So I got this in my brain pretty early too, that it was an episode where, for whatever reason, the Enterprise, no one on the Enterprise could sleep except for Counselor Troy. But she wasn't reaching REM sleep. That's how I learned about REM sleep, rapid eye movement, and just the different levels of sleep there are. And Dr. Crusher explained that if you don't get sleep, you go crazy and die. So, you know, when I learned that, I was like, sleep is important.
Oh God, yes. And I mean, like, you hear that people have mental breaks when they're exhausted. Like, a lot of the time, like, that will sort of trigger an episode. You know what I mean? Like, where...
and it's a torture technique.
Yes, because it feels
like sleep
crazy.
Deprivation. Yeah, it's really, you feel drunk.
Oh my God.
Like, you can't concentrate. It's also a very common tactic of cult leaders. Leaving your followers sleep deprived.
Oh,
wow. Depriving people of calories and sleep will break them. I think that was probably a big part of why slavery was so effective for so long.
Like, well, why didn't you just fight?
Well, and then I think I put in my notes too, pimps hate rest. You know, like, that would be their insult for other pimps. It would be like, oh, you just a rest haven for hoes. Because if you let the hoes rest, they figure out the game and leave. So
Interesting that you'd say
yeah.
that. So I mean, like, this is a massive pimping operation. That
Everything's
being,
pimping. We've talked about that.
capitalism and all, and that system wants to keep you so tired and worn out that you don't recognize that you're being played. Okay, you're being bent over there, sis.
Very good tactic too. I remember I had an ex. I'm not going to say which one, but he was constantly criticizing me for the amount of sleep I would indulge in.
Wow.
Like, it was just, it was seen as a character flaw. And it's like,
character flaw.
But I'm like, I'm still gonna, like, are you kidding me right now? It's like, Star Trek already told me, like,
and it's like, maybe you'd be more pleasant if you laid your ass down sometime.
Perhaps.
Maybe you wouldn't be.
But you also do need to have peace of mind to sleep. Because I have had sleepless nights. There are times when I've gone through divorces. Very difficult to sleep when you're going. Well, actually, the second time I was so exhausted, it was really easy to sleep. But the first time I went through a divorce, I had a lot of sleepless nights. And so that's why, like, maintaining your peace is so important, because it'll disrupt your rest.
Yeah, man. It's just wild though. But like, my sort of idea about sleep has always been, it's my favorite because it's the only time where I'm like completely relaxed, and I love being in that state, like where I know I'm not stressed out. Like, I lean into it. I love sleep. Like, sleep is one of my favorite things to do. So it's just that, I feel like it's just hard for me to prioritize it sometimes when it comes to, like, oh, I have to, like, I'm telling myself there's all these things I have to do sometimes. Or,
well, what you do actually have to do? Pay bills.
Yeah.
I felt like that was something that was maybe glossed over in the book, because she kept saying, like, just rely on faith. But it's like, okay. And she was talking about when she was in grad school and her account balance was in the negative, and, she had all these things going on. But I felt like there was like, okay, well, how did you solve all that? Because taking a nap isn't going to get, money in the account.
Right. And she does kind of, I get it. Maybe you felt like she, as much repetition that there was in the book, what I'm saying? She didn't repeat that a lot, but she was making the point that, like, she gets it. Like, it's that back and forth. Like, she's like, you're getting to get pulled into it. Like, you have to take care of yourself, and poverty is a bitch, or ain't no bitch. Well, wait, ain't no hoe. It's something. You know what I mean? It's hard out here.
Poverty's hard.
It's hard. So I think that, she did sort of tackle that when she was saying, like, you have to do what you have to do to survive and take care of yourself. But even in that, you know what I'm saying? Like, even if, like your friend there, like, she was at work, I'm taking my nap. Or like during your lunch break, if you can go sit in your car quietly or something like that. If you can create those spaces in the midst of, grinding, get it how you live. I mean, nobody's handing it to you though. You now, that's what you should be hustling for, is making that time to rest and to be in that dream state or whatever. I don't even remember the last time. I kind of sort of remembered my dream the other day, and I was telling my kids about it in the car, and now I don't remember what it was, because I was like, wait a minute, that was a dream. But very rarely do I even remember what the hell I dream about. So it's funny to me that you're saying, like, you're like, oh yeah, I dream all the time, and I don't say anything because it's too weird. I'm always so excited that I'm telling everybody if I remember my dream. Not like people I work with, but
sure,
I'm telling everybody.
Well, it's funny you brought up, the work stuff, because she brought up her own pregnancy, because that also changes your relationship to rest, because you're going to need a whole lot more of it. Because here's the thing, when you start making a person, if you're carrying that person to term, you're never not making that person. So, and it's exhausting. Like, it's hard to describe in words how physically and mentally fatigued you are, because every system in your body is going towards this new system. And I remember with my first pregnancy, it was the very rough first trimester. I had to be on bed rest. And then when I went back to work, my manager wrote me up for taking too long of a lunch. And I remember because my lunch was an hour, and I usually take like an hour 15 because I drive home. I didn't live far away. I drive home, take a nap, and then drive back to work and finish out my day. And it was a regular 9 to 5. Actually, I never knew exactly when I'd be getting off because it was a delivery kind of thing. So I couldn't leave until everything was done. Keep in mind, my manager left at 2:30 every day. And she also had a difficult pregnancy. She'd already just had a baby. So it's like, you know what I'm going through. But at the same time, instead of talking to me or working with me, you're just going to write me up. Cool. I'm a book reading bitch. I already knew what my rights were. I went to my doctor, got a note that said I'm allowed to take as long as a break as I needed to. Gave that to HR. And she never said anything to me about it again, because if she did, would have sued them.
Listen.
So, so just keep that in your back pocket, you guys. That is a very real thing. If your doctor gives you a note about something you have to do for your health and your job contradicts it, you get to sue them and you will win.
Well, America, you know.
And that's why they couldn't stand me there, because you couldn't hoe me. That was the thing too. I didn't need that job. Like, that's the whole thing about, like, I always wanted to stay in a space where no one could hoe me like that. Or have that power over me. And
sounds like you succeeded in that. Congratulations. Yeah, I mean, changing workplace dynamics though can be really difficult, because what I have found working in healthcare is that, you know, there is this expectation for you to like go above and beyond constantly. And, you know, as caregivers and as healthcare workers, it's like you're constantly giving, but then you're not necessarily getting that reflected back to you from your employers. And it's like, it's just like taking. And people wonder why, like, oh, you know, people don't want to work and we can't find nurses, or we can't find, you know, there's a shortage. And it's like, yeah, it's a shortage. It sucks here most of the time. Like, it's hard. And you know, even if you work at a really great place, like a lot of the time, I mean, I don't know, everywhere is short staffed. You know, people are just worked to the bone. And I think that, like, you know, especially after COVID, people recognized after having to sit the fuck down and rest, or you don't have just your work filling your time. Like, yeah, you're more aware of the things that are happening socially. You're more aware of the fact that, damn, I don't feel depressed like I was when I was showing up at this place every day. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like I have more time to enjoy my family, or I have more time to, you know, for some people it was that.
I'm not experiencing as many microaggressions or sexual harassment.
Exactly. So, you know, maybe it was illuminating some other issues within your home. I mean, depending on, you know, what your situation was, but, you know, but specific to work though, I do feel like a lot of people, like, that's why you see this shift now, because that rest period was built in. And it started conversations about, like, do we shorten the work week? Can people start working from home? Is there a more flexible? Okay. Yes to all of that. So,
well, I'm going to bring up Europe again, because the EU, they're not playing that crap. Like, I love the fact, shout out to the Polish lady for having us watch Emily in Paris, but I loved how they kept bringing up, it's like, dude, you can't contact me on the weekend. It's illegal about some work stuff. Like, and you can't, I remember learning this, I think, in my French class, because our teacher, she had spent time in France. Like, if you email people, like, when they're on vacation, like, you will get in serious trouble. Like, that is a huge no-no. Like, your like, they treat it as sacred, and it is.
Yeah. And you get in trouble if you don't take your time. Not in trouble, but, like, you're chastised. It's like, you're not, like, go home, Roger. Like, why are you still here? You're not getting bonus points in this bitch. You look crazy. Go home. Like, it doesn't lend itself to a balanced life. And I think it's unfortunate that most Americans just never get to even experience what that feels like. You know, maybe you get a week out of a year that you can take, and then it's like, I've had time, and then people act like you want to take the time that you've built up from working there all this time, and then they got something slick to say about how much time you take off, or people try to make you feel a way about, like, taking your time. It's like, the fuck I got it for if I can't take it? Like, this is weird, you know? So I don't know. It's a very unhealthy.
Or just the way how mechanical, because I'm going to go back to childbirth, but just the way that they try to treat that like a conveyor belt.
God.
Of not taking one of the, shout out to the Office ladies, with Jenna Fisher and Angela Kinsey, and they were talking about the episode where Pam had the baby, and they planned it out so they'd have an extra night at the hospital before the insurance kicked them out. And a lot of the European watchers wrote in and be like, is that real? It's like, do they really kick you out if you're not ready to go? And it's like, girl, yes. And like, they can't even imagine that. They're like, that's crazy. Like, you would kick out a new mother who needed help. Like, yeah, it's like out here, it's like, yeah, you gotta turn that bed over.
And guess what? In 5 weeks, have your bitch ass back here at work.
And the other thing is too, and this is why, you know, you're so vulnerable when you're, you know, ill or pregnant. Whenever you're dealing with the medical system, you're pretty much vulnerable. And so not having an advocate there is difficult, because she was talking about how she felt sort of pressured into having a C-section, even though she didn't want one.
This is the
but
author.
You don't have to. Like, this wasn't an emergency situation. They scheduled it. Like, they did it as a precaution, which you can understand in obstetrics. Like, you're just going off of like numbers and stuff like that. But you have to, because I had to stand up for myself. Like, I didn't want an epidural. They want to give you the Pitocin drip and an epidural. I didn't want to do that. And then they were like, well, we're going to have to send you home. I'm like, all right. Like, call them, like, do that. Like, you have to be I'm so stubborn, though, probably from all the rest. But like, I will, but my whole thing is like, I know what my rights are. Like, you're threatening me with this because you want things to go your way. But guess what? I want things to go my way. And here's the other thing. If it really is an emergency situation, you need to have a C-section, have the C-section. But if you think there's a possibility you could deliver naturally, get a second opinion. There should be another doctor in the practice, at least, you can talk to. I mean, I understand people like working with the same doctor. I've never had an allegiance to a doctor. Y'all went to the same school. Like, and you never know who's going to even be on call the day you have that baby. Part. So you should be ready to like think. Babies have their own thinking about you. That's one of the things I loved about the Beyonce documentary. She's talking about your kids don't care that you're the biggest pop star in the world. They're like, I need a snack.
Right, where are my fruit snacks?
Yeah, like they don't care about none of that. They're like, my stomach hurts. Like this is, and it's the same thing when you're pregnant. So I just wanted to use that as an opportunity too, because I felt like that wasn't said in the book. Like, I should have advocated for myself more.
Yeah.
Like,
well, that's always, I think, one of those things too. I think it can be hard for some people because like if you're not the kind of person who, you know, like maybe you've only had minimal contact really with healthcare. Like this is your first time because most people, like if you haven't broken something or had some kind of surgery, I mean, maybe you go to the doctor regularly, maybe you don't. But it's like, you know, a lot of people give doctors a lot. I don't want to say like give them a lot more credit than they deserve. Not like they don't deserve credit. I'm not saying that. I'm saying you do have the right to advocate for yourself. Like I've had to say that to patients, like when they're questioning like, well, why do I have to do this? And it's like, I'm not getting ready to make you do anything. Like I'm here to, you know, like I'm getting paid to do this job, but you are allowed to ask questions. If you don't understand why we're doing this, I will take you right on back down to this ER so you can ask the nurses, or I can have somebody come down here or take you back. I'll come back. I mean, you need to feel comfortable about what I'm doing. I'm not about to convince you. That's not my job.
And
like
here's
you
another thing that I think the medical nerds aren't great with communication generally. I think there should be like a division of communication in almost every medical establishment because that's how bad the communication is. But like one of the major things, if I give anyone advice, is make your appointments with a nurse practitioner. If you're not a seriously ill person, you probably don't really need a doctor like that. Like, I feel like I've gotten my best medical care from nurse practitioners, and they can write prescriptions. You'll be fine.
Right under doctors. And I think, you know, I think it's just going to depend. But I just feel like you said, I mean, know that you as the consumer in this situation, like, and as the patient, like, you are their business. So, they have to satisfy you. So if you have questions, ask them. If you're not sure about something, say it and feel like you can speak up for yourself. Because I've had to say that to people before. Like you can speak up.
I take notes before and after, like, because I take my really seriously. Like that's all you really have. So a lot of times I'll record what the doctor's saying to me. Like we got these magical rectangles. You paying all this money for them. That's one of the simplest functions they do is record sound. So you can just, you know, of course, ask permission, but, you know, it's really up to them. You know, like you should always, when you're recording, ask permission, but just let people know, like, hey, I'm gonna record this so that I can refer to this later, because I'm gonna forget.
Yeah, absolutely. But there are some excellent doctors out there who have great communication skills, and I think that's what makes them great. Like, the doctors that I notice that people enjoy the most, or that feel like they're getting the best care from, are the ones that sit down and talk to them and make them feel like, okay, I'm actually listening to what you have to say, and you have a voice in the situation. You're not just being talked at.
And it helps you figure out what's wrong.
Yeah.
Like, you're the patient, like, of course you can run tests, but it's always easier if the person can tell you, it's like, this is what's bothering me, and this is for how long, and this is why I'm concerned. And you're not bothering them. I think it's so funny. You know, I've been helping my mom kind of navigate different healthcare stuff, and she's so polite. Like, she doesn't want to bother anyone. It's like, you are such an easy person to deal with. Like, they will be perfectly happy to, you know, answer whatever questions you have. Like, this isn't, I don't know. I would just encourage people to not feel like a bother. And even if you are, make them people do their job.
Well, but that's my point, though. Like, again, that's social. That's how you're socialized. And then and then you add on being in a system that you're not used to being in, that can be intimidating. And people do shrink. And I mean, I feel like your mom she's a super smart woman. Like, it's not like she's dumb. It's not like she doesn't know how to speak, or she doesn't know how she feels. But like, all of that stuff, I just feel like sometimes it can be lost in translation depending on the situations that you're in. And so, like, you do have to, you know, when she was saying that to me, I was just assuming like maybe she is the kind of person who didn't feel empowered in that moment. And that does happen sometimes, you know, where you're just like, I don't know how to right now, or I didn't even know it was a choice, because it didn't even occur to you that you could be like, nah, I don't, because it's a doctor, and you're like, but the doctor was like, we're gonna have to do it now, and what it, you know. So but yeah, anyway, I mean, this isn't about just the healthcare part, but you know, I was bringing up the point of just, you know, changing sort of the way we think and move about rest, you know, at work and stuff like that. And, you know, like you were saying too, the expectation of women to jump back into the workforce, like literally right after they have babies. It's honestly, it feels like violence. It does feel like,
to bring up our European counterparts, they get like either 6 months to a year of maternal leave, and we get 6 weeks.
6 weeks. I know that I
don't think that's enshrined in federal law either. I think that's different from state to
probably
state.
and business to business. And so, like, if you're listening to this podcast and you're not from the States, it is ghetto here when it comes to that. Like, it's so hard. I mean,
and not for nothing, like, people come here to study our high, like, maternal death rate, especially for Black women here. And I have to think there's some correlation.
It's super crazy. And then people probably ain't getting no rest neither, because they are working them people to death. They're there.
18-hour shifts should not exist.
Man.
But, like, there are plenty of medical professionals who do work those.
Oh, I know.
And
I've worked a 16-hour shift before.
Same.
I have definitely worked a 16 before. I've definitely done that.
See, I don't like
and
that.
And it's wild. Yeah, because I mean, it's just crazy. So I don't know, like, this book really did resonate with me in a way that, you know, like, I feel like I could, well, again, the grace, I have to give myself the grace, but I feel like, man, the burnout is real and stuff. And I think it just intensified once I had kids too, though, because before that, I mean, I didn't have no problem finding rest. Like, it was easy to find. But like, once you start kind of taking on more things, you know, whether it's a business or starting a family or whatever, you know, it really does change the way that you think about rest and the way you try to get it. And so I don't know, man, like, it's always a struggle for me now.
Would you like to hear another fun quote from the book?
So I would love to.
That ties into that?
Yeah.
Quote, "Once we know and remember we are divine, we will not participate and allow anything into our hearts and minds that is not loving and caring. We would treat ourselves and each other like the tender and powerful beings we are." End quote.
I mean, sounds good, Tricia, but you know,
it's like, whatever, lady.
Okay, I got shit to do, you know. But
I think that's true. Like, I think it helps the kinder we are to ourselves. I think it allows us to extend that to other people. And that's sort of like, you know what, I want this for you too. Like, you should be this, you know, like it doesn't have to be like this.
I know.
Like, we don't even have to have poverty as a concept. Like, there's so many places all over the world where they're eradicating homelessness and poverty.
It's like, why do we want it to be like this?
Because we want to have a terrified underclass that's easy to exploit.
Oh, yeah. That old thing. That old gym.
Because that's the thing. Like, the reason why we'll I think I've talked about it on the show before, where like the French people were protesting them raising the retirement age from 62 to 64, and they were setting the streets on fire. It's like, because they have the energy to protest because they're not being overworked. And and they're getting pissed off about something that'll be like, man, I wish I could retire at 64. That'd be amazing.
Because what is it here, 70 now?
I think it's an equation. I think different places is different stuff, but I think before you can get Social Security, I think you have to be 66.
Okay, it says you will also need to begin receiving benefits. Full retirement, age of 66 or 67, depending on your birth date.
Okay.
Well, that's for Social Security, though, I think.
That's for Social Security.
Yeah.
So, like, but for jobs, sometimes it's a different equation to get your pension, whatever. But yes, yeah. Like, so just think about the fact that they're pissed off that they're trying to just inch it up 2 years, and they took to the streets, and they're very the French people are very active politically because they have time to be.
Yeah.
It's the same way, like you said, during the lockdown, we saw way more civic engagement because people had time to sit and think about this stuff. That's why there was this rush to get back to normal, where it was like, because can we also talk about the fact that when people were getting the enhanced unemployment benefits, something that really stuck out to me and was really glossed over, I feel, in the media, was the fact that originally the enhanced benefit was going to be $1,200 a week, because they did the calculations on the average expenses that people have, and that was the figure they came up with. But then people flipped out because it's like people weren't making that working. Like, most people weren't making that working. And so they cut it in half to $600 just to get it passed. Because remember who we had in the White House at the time. He wasn't someone who was concerned with the well-being of the, American worker. And so he's someone who didn't even pay his bills. So, he didn't care about, people getting what they're owed. So to me, it was very interesting that the American government is very invested in making sure people aren't paid a living wage.
Damn. You better not say that too loud, because
I'm gonna say, what are they gonna do? Oh, because here's another thing. Because we're white supremacy and capitalism came up quite a bit, and we talk about white supremacy a lot on the show. We don't talk about capitalism a lot, but
they go together.
They do go together. But when I was going back to school to get like my BS, and I was taking a career development class, and that's when you do your resume and stuff like that. And of course, like for maybe the past 15 years, I've been working as a hairdresser. That'd been my primary job. And my instructor was like, well, don't put that on there. And I'm like, what? That's what I've been doing though. And it's something I'm proud of. It's hard. Like, it's hard to run your own business and make a living off of it. Of course, that's supposed to be like the American dream of having a small business, but America does not make it easy. It's a really hard thing to do. And being asked to leave it off, I didn't dig too deep, but I was like, why leave this off? And it's because it's seen as a low status profession, because it's something that's mostly done by women and gay people. And so, and it's also, it doesn't give the money back to like the whites, power structure. Like I mostly just worked with other black, I'm a black person. I mostly did black people's hair. So it's mostly black women spending money amongst each other. It's almost one of the only fields where that happens. So to me, it's interesting that that's always kind of seen as something separate and not professional. and something that I'm supposed to be like, I guess, embarrassed of, and I'm not supposed to put it on my resume. So I did anyway. And of course I didn't get hired for anything, and I'm still doing here. Because it's like, but I don't want to be a part of anything that doesn't value that work.
Right. And that's what's hard too, because I'm just like, you know, okay, so this made me think about this podcast even, right? Because we talked about how, like, you know, the higher up you get in media, the more you can't tell the truth. And largely this space is created out of our need to, you know, connect, right? Like that was the main thing. Like I need to connect with my friend and create this space. And from that, it's like, okay, cool. We get to explore different narratives. Storytelling is super powerful. And so we find ourselves talking about stuff like this, like a book that we read, and it's leading us into a conversation about our lives and how we perceive our lives. And it's like, does that get cut? You know what I'm saying? Like when you think about, you know, your goals or aspirations, and how they're based around capitalism, because we're in a capitalistic society. So even though like we're not making money like that off of the podcast or anything like that, we clearly do it for free because we are and have been. But it's like when it gets to the point where this is like,
except for the patrons,
shout out to the patrons. Thank you for saying that. But like, I don't know, like how do you resolve that? Because there's going to be, well, it's twofold to me, because it's like, okay, the expectation of work, especially like if it's like, oh, we get an opportunity to do this and they're offering us money to do this, you know what I'm saying? There's an exchange here. Then it's like, you know, does the message have to change? Do we have to change how we're saying it? Do we have to, you know, because now you're talking about money. Then it's like, is the expectation on your time even more? Because, you know, we're already carving out time for this, but now it's like, oh, they want you to do these things and they want you to do these things. And so, you know, I guess my question to you is like, do you feel like, I don't know, like, can those things be in the same space? Like, how do you, on one hand, say you want to disrupt the system and not be a part of the system, and then be involved in something that can put you farther into it, kind of, you know what I'm saying? Like when you've managed to avoid it. And this isn't like a specific question to you, like I'm asking you personally, but just like in general.
Oh, rhetorical. Oh, because my answer is going to be like, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, just in general, how does anybody, you know what I'm saying? Because I just feel like it's really hard. I just think it's hard to, there is no balance, right? Like there's already no balance. And then like you throw in that and it's like, do you not take on these opportunities? Because now it's like, well, I don't want to be part of the system. And it's like, well, you already are. You can't totally not be in it. And you're already doing the work. So why not get paid for, you know what I mean? So I'm just like, man, this really had me thinking like navigating that struggle of balancing your ambition with your own personal well-being, and just being able to still have your voice, you know what I'm saying? And not compromising the integrity of what it is you're creating or whatever. So, yeah.
I think that balance, because that's the thing, like, because we have to have resources. I like to think of it in terms of resources instead of money. Because money is an invention.
Yes.
And it's a useful invention. But it hasn't always been around. Like I think of all the times about how human beings have evolved, and we have, as our time as human beings, not had money longer than we've had money.
Right.
As a concept. So I think psychologically it still plays with us a little bit. This is like kind of related, but off topic a little bit. Did you happen to see the viral video of T.I. and his son King that went viral? Yeah, from the Falcons game or whatever, and them hollering at each other. And it seems like this contention where he feels like he was neglected by his parents, and they're like, how can you say you were neglected? You never had to deal with roaches. And it's like, okay, so
he said roaches.
You didn't hear that part? He's like, you ever wake up with a roach on your face? You didn't hear that part? Or in your ear? Like, he's basically trying to I don't necessarily recommend listening to it, because for me it was triggering. Like if you've ever had like a loud yelly fight with a family member, that was it. But
I clearly didn't see the whole thing or hear the whole thing. I just saw him saying something about like you're embarrassing yourself and your family, and him being like, I know you because I know you or something. But and then I heard the summary of like, oh, okay, yeah, he feels like his grandma raised him and not his family, and they only brought him around for the show or something.
For the show,
yeah,
right?
And so the roach thing, no, I did not.
No. So, and that was the thing that was strange too. It was like, you was always at your grandma. You was always crying to go over there. It's like, okay, but you didn't have to take them.
Don't have to.
Like,
I don't give a damn. You can stay your ass here. This is where you live.
Right. Like, and to me, I remember when they got arrested a couple years ago, because I remember thinking, I'm like, they are wilding for people who have kids, because they had gotten arrested for like having like a bunch of drugs in the car and stuff. Yeah. And then aren't they still facing like some sexual assault charges?
Shit, I forgot about those.
Right?
I forgot.
Because that's why he got kicked off the Marvel movie. He was an Ant and the Wasp Man. And that was a nice little bag that got fumbled because he kept getting arrested. Wow. And well, not, I don't know if he got arrested, but yeah, he had faced charges about there was some smoke and there's probably some fire. But people don't like talking about that because they like T.I. He's a very popular rapper.
Okay. He's
kind of an Atlanta, but that's the thing, like, I think the fact that we equate money with good.
Yeah.
And that's not always the, like, there was plenty of money there, but that doesn't make you a good parent. I went to school with a lot of rich kids who had horrible parents, but nobody ever wanted to confront that because it's like, well, you're sending your kid to private school. How bad of a parent can you be? And it's like, you can be a pretty terrible parent. Like, I saw so much abandonment. Like, that was the thing. That's why to me that resounded with me, because he felt abandoned by his parents, even though, like, and of course he would come around because you want to be around your parents, like for the show and stuff like that. Like, when you're that young, you'll do anything for your parents' acceptance. But once you get older and you realize how fucked up that was, yeah, you might go off at the Falcons game.
Right. And I mean, maybe that's not the best venue to be talking about it, but it doesn't make it invalid.
But my heart went out to him. Like, to me in that situation, like for the people who are defending T.I. and Tiny, that was strange to me because I really felt sorry for that young man, because all the evidence points to the fact that they were not really there for him.
He didn't have roaches.
He didn't have what? Yeah. Well, and we don't even know that.
That's the message. No, he was pretty clear from what you just told me that you didn't ever put a roach on your ear. So, like, that's the measure.
And that's my thing. If that was your only goal for your children, is that they...
For the record.
Same here. I'm parent of the year. Woo! No, like, of course I wanted things better for my kids than they were for me, but it's not just enough to materially provide for your children. And that's why I think, like, with Nick Cannon having them babies everywhere, like, yes, he can more than likely financially provide for all of those children, but children don't just need money.
Yeah, people don't just need money. Right. And then, so, and that's a really good point. You know, I agree with you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree with you with that. And, you know, that's the thing. Like, you know, people are working because they're trying to get enough resources, however you want to call that, in order to get to a state where they can rest. Like, you know, there's always that sense of like, if I
that idea of earn your leisure.
Yes. That idea of like, let me, you know, if I do this now, then I can relax later. If I accumulate these things and have, you know, these things in place, that I'll finally get to rest and stuff. But what's crazy is that, you know, you always hear about people dying right after their retirement type shit. You know what I'm saying? Like 2 years after they retire, they've worked themselves into, you know, to their graves, basically. She even talked about her dad doing that, watching her father, like, be the be all end all for so many people in his community and giving and not setting any boundaries, and then like dying at 55.
Yeah. To me that really stuck out. You know what I think? I think we should take a break.
Okay, good call, friend. We'll be right back. Welcome back from the break, you guys. Yeah, this book, man, I'll tell you, it had me all over the place because, I don't know, it just struck a chord for me, and it just reminded me how much work I have to do to unravel myself from some of the toxic stuff that, you know, you don't even realize is toxic when it's happening. And, you know, I don't know, man. She pulled my card on this book. I said, damn, this is, I need shit. I was listening to our Patreon. I'm so sorry. Like, I feel like I started my sentence right when you were going to say something, but like, I was pulling up our Patreon earlier and I was uploading the video and you were sick, I think. And I think I was just coming off of being sick too. And we were like, oh yeah, like when we're sick, that's the only time we get to rest. Like that's the only genuine time. Yeah. And I just thought, God damn, that's sad.
Yeah, we were talking about how sometimes we're actually kind of happy when we're sick because you have to relax. And no one can say anything. But I will say you have a partner who's very encouraging of you taking breaks.
Oh yeah.
Like he's even reached out to me and thanked me and other friends for like taking you out to like do like leisure activities. Because like he's just so happy to see you like happy and relaxed.
My God.
My ex was like, get to work, bitch. And that's why we're not together.
Oh my gosh. And yeah, he is definitely a big rest advocate for me sometimes. And it's just, like I said, I don't like listening to him. And it's really sad because sometimes he actually be saying good stuff.
I will say it is very irritating when your partner's
I know, I don't
right.
like it. And so it's not really his fault.
Very dangerous precedent to set.
And if he's listening to this, he's probably smiling and stuff.
I know, it's like, let's say something bad about him.
No, but it is very sweet though. He does encourage me too. I mean, everybody I feel like in my life will be like, well, why don't you just rest? And it's like, and my first thought is, bitch, how? You know what I mean? Like, and so how? Like, do you see all that's happening here? And just really, making space for, even if it is just taking breaks. Like, I don't think I'm gonna be able to stop cold turkey at all. Like but it is something that I have to constantly be aware of and say like, it's okay.
I think our author said she just started out with 15-minute naps.
Yeah, I got to get good at short naps. I mean, I'm a bitch after 20
Well, and that's
naps.
the thing. I wouldn't force yourself to do anything that feels wrong. Yeah. Because I remember there was a time where I couldn't do naps. Like I would wake up cranky and angry. I feel like I can nap great now.
Really?
But, in the past it wasn't always a thing, but whatever it takes to I remember because I was going kind of in on doctors earlier, but I remember some of the advice I ever got was from my obstetrician when I was having my son, and he said, do whatever you have to do to feel good.
Yeah, and that's what rest will do for you too, though. I hope everybody's doing that, actually, for the record. Like, I hope everybody is creating that time and space, for themselves, because life is short. And I don't know. You want to be fully present. Like I notice I'm a better person when I get rest. I'm a better mom. I'm a better time in general. So,
and not for anything else, I'm also a beautician. It's crazy good for your, you as a beauty rest. It's called beauty sleep for a reason.
Yeah, it is.
I will say a big inspiration for my rest practice has been my aunt, who's always had huge boundaries around her rest. Like everybody knows, don't call after 9:00. Like, I'm not here for it.
No, that's right. Better let me alone, okay?
Yeah, like, do not interrupt my sleep. Like, you will get your feelings hurt. Like, it has to be an emergency. Don't come to me with any BS, because my sleep is very important. And she's still beautiful.
Yeah, she is.
Like, that's the thing. Like, it served her well. So, yeah, I think I'm gonna one of my biggest things has been observing older people, what they do, and if they have success in that area, do that.
Yeah, there you go. I think that's some solid advice too, though. So, do you want to rate the book, or is there anything else you want to touch on before we move on?
I'll probably give it 3.5 out of 5 clouds, fluffy clouds to sleep on. Only because there was just so much repetition, it made me sleepy.
So she did her job, is what you're saying.
Yeah. I took a nap right after I finished. Like, for real. I set a little timer and just, laid down. So, yeah.
Oh, that's what's up. I'm going to give it, you know what? Kind of the same. Like I was gonna say the 4, but I feel like 3.5 too. I'm gonna give it.
It was a little long. Like it was a manifesto, so it could have been a lot shorter.
Yes.
And I think I got the message better from the people she was citing. So, like, if I was going to recommend a book, I would probably recommend stuff by Alice Walker or Audre Lorde or a lot of the other people that she cited before I would recommend this book.
Gotcha. Yeah, I agree. It was the repetition.
But this is probably more digestible, though. But that's just for me.
Okay. It's a good intro, I think. Like, if this is something new, I think it's probably, or something that you just struggle with in general, like getting that message is, you know, you're going to get that message loud and clear. But because of the nature, like the repetition was hard, but it's not like I didn't think that the message she was saying didn't bear repeating, because like none of it was bad. So I think for me,
it's just hard to read.
Yes, I could definitely see that. It was hard to hear it, because at a certain point I'm like, damn, should I be counting how many times she says white supremacy and capitalism?
It'd be an interesting drinking game.
Oh, we would be fucked up, friend. But I would give it 3.5 yoga mats, you know, because it was very namaste, very felt like a mantra and stuff like that too. But I think it's important work, and I thank her for, you know what I mean, sort of bringing that out, because this is an old, like she mentions, this isn't like a new ministry in terms of like rest practices being as activism and stuff like that. But I do think that I like that she's taking that message and bringing it into a more modern audience or whatever. So I respect it. I still need to hear it, and I'm really glad I had an opportunity to, you know, really take in that mantra. I probably needed to hear it more than I'd like to admit. So overall, I enjoyed it though, and her voice was very pleasant too. So the audiobook might be the way to go. It's probably a little bit more pleasant that way, because it was very relaxing. Yeah, very, very much. So I liked it. I thought it was good. So good work, Tricia.
Yeah, no regrets.
Appreciate you. So let's see what we're gonna get into for this next week though, friend. Let's spin this wheel. Spin it. Okay, now listen, I feel like we announced this before. Killers of the Flower Moon by David Grann. So let's try it again.
It's Kat's fault. I've been putting it off because I'm scared.
You're scared that some of it's not your fault. I'm not going to let you take that all the way, because we had two or three episodes in a row where we had illustrious guests. So
you know what? It's the guest's fault. You're right.
It's the fact that we don't miss an opportunity to interface with people we enjoy and have people on our show and stuff like that. So if things get moved around, it's a fake ass book club. What do you think? What do you want from me?
What do you want from me? Oh, also need to shout out Artifact. We're going to be there this Sunday, December 10th, 6 o'clock for just awesomeness at the Stutz. Thank you, Box the Artist and DJ Mary Jane, for having us there. Really looking forward to that. We'll be podcasting there. And a shout out to Gwen Sunkel for her YouTube comedy special, 2-person job. Very funny. I recommend everybody listen to it, comment, like, subscribe, do all the things. Very talented. I love the fact that I get to know the people I'm a fan of. It's very, very fun.
Yay! Well, this was a lot of fun, friends.
We did it!
We did it once again. We created space for the things we love. I love you, friends. I love all you guys for tuning in and listening.
I love some of y'all.
And the ones that are listening. Because if you're here, it's like...
I do. If you're listening, I love you.
You know what I mean? Come on.
Yeah, man. And your body belongs to you.
I promise.
So lay your ass down.
Kat is the poster child for this fucking book. I was like, this is her book, because it's like, I just kept thinking that to myself, like, your body belongs to you. It is. So still your rest, you guys, if you got
to. And it's only because instead of having a boyfriend in high school, I had Alice Walker books.
I was getting laid. Shit. That's my problem.
Yeah. I mean... if I had the choice, because the books are still here, but
you know, I'll read them now.
You can always get around to those.
No, it's
you should be getting it while the getting is good.
I'm just saying. But yeah, you guys, your body belongs to you on that note, and we will see you again next week, friends. Peace.
Before we go, we must give thanks to Urban Nerd for providing our music, and legal services were handled by Trezanae M. Atkins. If you like what you heard, please feel free to join us every Wednesday for another fake-ass book club. Cheers.
Thank you guys for listening. You can check us out at thefabpodcast.com. Please subscribe, rate, and review our podcast wherever you're listening right now. We want to hear from you. Come put it in our life. Thanks again, and until next time, peace, love, and the Fake Ass Book Club. We out.